This is a crime of a scene. I do not relish in being a hater, however, Netflix Avatar Season 2 is coming out, and I've been reminded of the show, and I got frustrated all over again. And this isn't even me being a hater, it's all fueled by love for the show, and seeing it twisted up in this way is just upsetting. Anyway, the Agni Kai is a microcosm of what this show gets so gargantuanly wrong. It's not just nostalgia goggles or thing bad because thing new. It is a fundamental misunderstanding of what's happening and why it is happening. The biggest problem is simply ZUKO fights back. This is taking out the supporting Jenga piece and then everything just crumbles underneath it. Here are all the ways that it misses the point. Number 1, the point is that ZUKO was punished specifically for not fighting.
The Fire Lord said that by refusing to fight, ZUKO had shown shameful weakness.
This is not an arbitrary detail. It matters because it tells us who ZUKO is. He is young. He is scared. He is not the fight-picking boy that we know in the present. He chose non-violence and apologies, and it cost him half his face. This is vital information. We learn that ZUKO is terrified of his father. Facing a physical confrontation with him is unthinkable. And even if the show tries to frame it like, well, he backed down at the last second, that's what he's punished for. This is not a cosmetic change. This is not the same result with slightly different details. It is orders of magnitude different in impact and intensity. Because the point isn't ZUKO couldn't follow through. It is that ZUKO, a child, refused to fight wholesale. And so, his father chose to burn him for this, while he was on his knees, weeping and begging. Number 2, showing 13-year-old ZUKO catching OZAI off guard is bananas. ZUKO would not hold his own against OZAI, even evasively. That's the point. That's exactly what makes this absurd. That OZAI would challenge this young, inexperienced, non-prodigy bender's son at all. ZUKO was not an impressive bender, which OZAI specifically resents. Even if, again, we say, oh, OZAI kind of let him. This also misses the point. OZAI was not gathering a crowd to watch his son hold his own in a practice duel. He came to make a point. It is an ego trip. The new scene also swaps out the crowd in favor of like 6 people. But the crowd was exactly the point. OZAI wanted the biggest audience possible to watch him violently reprimand his son. OZAI knows that ZUKO is no match for him. That is part of the cruelty. On top of this, now the main scary looming antagonist of the series doesn't seem nearly as much of a threat. If his 13-year-old son could almost get the jump on him at all. And all of this also defangs Day of Black Sun. Because that's the moment ZUKO actually can confront his father and physically stand up to him. It's a moment of growth, and it's pivotal because he's never done it before. This scene also tells us who OZAI is. This is a guy who would not just choose to burn his own son, but specifically, while he is pleading for forgiveness, on the ground, making himself small. This quickly establishes for us, it is OZAI who has no honor. There wasn't even the pretense of a legitimate duel, and OZAI knew that. That's the disgrace. He challenged a child, someone smaller and weaker than him, to showcase his power. It's cowardly and pathetic. And that's the point. And the Netflix spin that OZAI was testing him and let him get the jump on him, and so ZUKO's punished for backing down, but OZAI would not do this. This guy who disdains ZUKO so fiercely, who nearly had him killed for power when he was younger.
Dad's going to kill you.
To frame all of this as some misguided teaching moment is to miss all of this. This is not a teaching moment. This is a public humiliation scene. This is also missed by making OZAI even kind of conflicted. The point made in this scene is that OZAI proudly, tauntingly burned his son. It is horrifying because he wasn't conflicted about it. He didn't secretly think it was for his own good. Yes, everyone can be humanized and worth redemption, but there are also people like OZAI who have decided to stick in their ways. That is just as much a reality and a worthwhile story. There are tons of gray and ambiguous villains in this show. OZAI is pointedly not one of them. Also, we're not supposed to see OZAI's face. The point is that we don't see his face until season 3. The point is that at this juncture in the story, he is this specter for both ZUKO and Aang. He is the specter of ZUKO's shame and misguided beliefs about honor, and for Aang, the impending doom of responsibility and destiny. Then, when his face is revealed, not only does this hit dramatically, but after all of that shadowy buildup, it's this anticlimax of, he's just a guy. A terrible, tyrannical guy, but also just a person. On top of this, we specifically only see OZAI bend very sparingly until the finale. Aside from his lightning strike in Day of Black Sun, we just don't see OZAI fight. The point of withholding this is that this keeps his abilities shrouded in mystery and therefore in terror. This undermines that too. We have now lost all of these character-defining beats in favor of a fight scene that shouldn't exist. And the truth is, these are not two versions of the same scene. They mean completely different things. The original is a tragedy, a public humiliation, a showcase of how maniacal but also how wrong and pathetic OZAI is. In the original, ZUKO speaks out of turn, and OZAI considers this an act of disrespect. What do we learn? That OZAI is an egomaniac who will take real or perceived disrespect as a treasonous offense. ZUKO's crime is that he insulted OZAI with a public outburst, so OZAI needs to humiliate him right back in front of his subjects. Now, the reason for banishment is slightly different and changes the meaning completely.
You held back today.
The new scene tries to be something else while keeping the original backbone, and so everything just gets muddled. It's about respect, but it's also this heavy-handed point about compassion. First of all, this doesn't even totally track. Yes, ZUKO is a compassionate person. However, the main issue in either scene isn't compassion. It's what OZAI sees as dishonor upon dishonor. First you interrupt my meeting, then you refuse to fight me. The problem is that ZUKO is just not an aggressive kid, that he's scared of his father. Instead, in the remake, OZAI is trying to teach his son to be strong through some backwards, extreme tough love.
Is this everything? Give me everything! Your spirit, however, still needs strengthening.
Also, as insult to injury, the show cannot respect its audience in how it delivers this message. It Blue's Clues turns to the camera to say,
Compassion is a sign of weakness.
Compassion is a sign of weakness.
It's so clunky, so unsubtle, and this is supposed to be grown-up Avatar for adults. What are we doing? Compare all of this to the simplicity of,
You will learn respect, and suffering will be your teacher.
Then, OZAI personally delivering his banishment almost feels beneath him. It's framed as though he legitimately cares about Zuko's development, like he kind of has a point, forcing his privileged prince son to go on a life-defining study abroad trip.
Well, since you seem unable to learn within the walls of this palace, perhaps the demands of the world outside will prove to be a better teacher.
Compare this to the confrontation in the original.
How can you possibly justify a duel with a child?
It was to teach you respect.
It was cruel, and it was wrong.
Exactly. Because there was no justification. Plain and simply, this is not supposed to be an action scene. Netflix made this into an action scene because cool fight set piece is cool. But the entire point is that there is nothing cool here. There are no spinny fire tricks, no totally epic slow-mo. You have stripped the purpose and emotional weight and dumped it out in favor of an action scene that doesn't even look very good. Sure, OZAI is famously an exception to Avatar's usual nuance by just being a guy on a warpath. So I'm okay with showing more OZAI nuance. However, I do not think it should have come at the expense of this scene. This scene is instrumental to establishing who ZUKO is, laying the foundation for his arc, precisely because it is extreme. This is a high contrast scene by design. By chopping off these extremes, making ZUKO slightly less vulnerable, making OZAI slightly less cruel, you have reduced the scene's emotional gamut. This is not a nuanced event. It was just cruel. I will say that I did like seeing more OZAI and Iroh interactions in the aftermath, which we basically get none of in the original show. And look, if you personally feel that this is a scene that works for you, I'm happy for you. Change is not bad just by virtue of being change. But to me, this is so clearly a vastly inferior, less impactful scene. And for good measure, it's bloated as hell. The new scene tries to do more and be more, and ends up being an unsubtle, awkward mess. The remake has this vendetta against subtext.
He's your son.
We'll see. Compassion is a sign of weakness. He'll recover.
But he'll never heal.
Do you see, in comparison, how efficiently the original conveys this, and with 10 times the gravitas?
You will learn respect, and suffering will be your teacher.
Character for ZUKO, character for OZAI, intimidation for our series villain, and does it all with weight and drama and style, and all under 3 minutes. Also, more minor nitpicks, but I get to be petty about this show. You know, straws and camels and backs. Why are they conjuring fire, pausing, and then throwing it at the opponent? Also, why are they doing hand-to-hand combat? Also, it's kind of ugly. And all of this is just a microcosm of the remake because it does this a billion times. It makes changes which alone are not an issue, but that completely miss the point of why things happened. It's one thing to make changes, it's entirely another to rip out the engines of why a story works. You rip out the characterization, the stakes, the themes, everything that made Avatar this cliche of a perfect kids cartoon. Okay, the end.